Oh, look at that, it buttons. Well, I get to explain science to you, and that gets me excited. And I don't know how many people out there think that, oh, this is going to be my 30-minute nap. What I hope I get to send you home with is a new level of understanding. You know what, Mike? Did you also give me the clicker?
You need that?
Well, you know.
I was going to control it for you so I can keep the tempo.
Okay.
There you go.
I really want to send you home with a new level of understanding of what AgeLOC science is. Well, I don't like that slide so much. I like this one better. How many of you have seen this diagram before? Okay, we use it a lot when we talk about AgeLOC. How many of you think you can explain it? Actually, I'll even take a volunteer. Someone want to come up here and help me explain it? All of a sudden, all right, come on up. Please tell me your name.
This one, or this one.
Okay, so here we've got at the center, we've got the sources of aging, and outside we've got the signs and symptoms. So what are these sources of aging, Jess?
Sources of aging are in our genes. It's AgeLOC clusters that control different parts of the way we age.
Did you guys hear that? She was talking about genes. So we're talking about like DNA, right? Okay, so give me an example of a sign and a symptom of aging.
Lines and wrinkles, pigmentation,
Okay?
sagginess.
All right? All of those would be signs and symptoms. So you're saying that there's genes that actually cause those things.
Yeah, that control the way that our body acts and creating those things.
So Jess, you're really smart. Can I keep you up here for just a little bit longer? Because it's helpful. It's helpful. So we've got these genes, and they direct kind of our visual characteristics. Okay, all right. So let's see. You and I, we both have blue eyes, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we have a gene that encodes for that.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got a couple brown-eyed people out there, so they've got a different gene, right?
Yeah.
All right. So genes are responsible for our visual characteristics. This is something you guys can agree with?
Yeah.
All right. So between Gene and I, what level of shared DNA do you think we have? How much in common do you think we have?
99.9%.
99. I thought we said that genes were responsible for our visual characteristics. Do we look like we're 99.9% the same? No. Okay. So is he right? What do you think, Gene?
Yes.
Jess.
Talking about
Gene, Jess. Do you think we're almost twins?
I'd say it'd be in the mid-90s.
Mid-90s? Actually, the gentleman in the back is just about right. It's more than 99%, not quite 99.9%. Pretty amazing, huh? So, how is it possible that across all ethnicities and races, people are sharing? So, just between Jess and I, we're sharing more than 99%. Same thing across all races. People are sharing 99% of the same DNA. How is this possible? If genes are responsible for our visual characteristics, how can people look so different but have almost the identical DNA? Okay. So thank you, Jess. The answer is a term that I'm going to use a lot this evening. And as I start to use this term, you're going to think, I don't really know what that means. But as we go through the evening, I think you're going to increase your confidence in what we can do. The reason that you can have the same, me and Jess can have almost the same DNA, the reason all these individuals can have almost identical DNA, but yet appear so different, is something known as gene expression. So they have the same genes, but those genes express differently. Feel a little uncomfortable with the term? Because if you are, you're right on track, all right? Anyone know who this gentleman is? Joe Chang. So this is my boss's boss, our chief scientific officer, at age 8. And here he is at, someone told me yesterday, age 59. I actually did not know that. On day number 1 of your life versus today, do you have the same set of DNA? It's exactly the same. Same at age 8, same at age 59. Only changes in DNA would be a mutation, and that's not a good thing. So, same DNA, how come you look different? Genetic expression, the way those genes are expressing. So you've got the same recipe deck, but it's somehow being read differently. Now, I'm going to talk about some scientific details, but one thing that we certainly don't want you to feel like is that you need to become a scientist to do this business, all right? It's intimidating enough. You open up the catalog, you have dozens of products you have to become familiar with. We don't want you to feel like you have to take on the science side of that too. We've got all sorts of resources for you to tap into so that you don't have to become scientists. But you do need to be able to walk away and have an easy explanation of gene expression and what AgeLOC science is. And I like this explanation. To compare our DNA, our genome, to a symphony. So in your genome, anyone know how many genes are in the human genome?
54.
Somewhere between 20 and 25,000 genes in the human genome. So that's a lot of genes. So think of each gene as being a little bit like an instrument in a symphony. That would be a huge symphony, 20,000 instruments in a symphony. But this is just an analogy, so we'll let it work. So you've got all these different instruments in your genetic symphony, and each of those instruments play their own music, right? And as you put that together, it creates the symphony that is you. Well, as time goes by, those instruments come out of tune. And so as we grow older, that genetic symphony becomes out of tune, and the music doesn't sound quite the way it did when we were younger. So the purpose of AgeLOC technology is to retune your genetic symphony. Does that make a little bit of sense? Okay? You don't have to be a scientist to duplicate that. So as you go around sharing with people what AgeLOC is, it's just simply something to retune your genetic symphony so that your music starts playing the way that it did when you were younger. Well, now here comes the geeky details. So this is a cell. What do I have at the center of my cell here?
Mitochondria.
Nucleus, and what are these little X-like structures? Chromosomes. We can take one of those and blow it up. We can even stretch out a chromosome. If we unravel a chromosome, what we find is DNA. And DNA, if we want to break it down into segments, individual segments of DNA of different lengths, each one is a gene. So this is where we get those 20 to 25,000 genes. Well, I like to describe a gene as a recipe for a building block of your body. And so as you take these recipes and turn them into building blocks, they make either a functional or structural protein that is a building block of your body. And because you have 20 to 25,000 of these genes, you have lots of different types of building blocks. And so as the recipe is made, you actually get the product of the recipe. Think of this just like in your kitchen. You pull out the recipe card. I don't care what the recipe is. You follow that recipe, and now you have the product of that recipe. Does that make sense? Same thing with a gene. A gene is just the instructions for building a building block of your body. Well, this particular gene, it's making its product at a relatively low rate. This gene is making its product at least a higher rate than the first gene. Okay? We refer to this as gene expression. So you've got low gene expression and high gene expression. And you could have gene expression anywhere in between or above or below that, I suppose. So are you starting to grasp what this term of genetic expression means? The DNA remains the same, the recipe doesn't change. It's how much of the product of that particular gene. Now, you've got 20 to 25,000 of these genes, and so it's changing all over the place in the aging process. In fact, we'll take the same genes that I was talking about before. I'll just name them gene 1 and gene 2 here. But please notice that I have marked here that it's youthful gene expression. And so here, gene 1 is being expressed at a low level, gene 2 at a high level. Now, do you want your genes to express at a low level or high level? Which one is better? Mike, I don't even think we need to bring me out here next time. These guys know this stuff. It doesn't matter. It's not that well, it does matter. But it's not that low or high is better. It's that you want to have whatever genetic expression you had when you were younger. So this pattern of low expression in gene 1, high expression in gene 2 is the pattern that you want. And to make this a little more real world, let's give these genes names. Anyone ever heard of collagen before? What's collagen do? Yeah, it actually gives structure to your tissues. In fact, if we didn't have collagen in our tissues, we could rip ourselves apart like bread. A little disgusting, I suppose, but it provides that nice, youthful structure to our tissue. So let's say gene 2 is collagen. You would want to have a lot of collagen in your skin, wouldn't you? Give that youthful structure to your skin. Let's say that gene 1 is another protein known as collagenase. Anyone want to guess what collagenase is? Say it louder.
Joins things together.
Breaks it down.
Breaks it.
Yeah, whenever you hear the ACE, that means it's an enzyme typically that breaks things down, or oftentimes it breaks things down. So collagenase breaks collagen down. So let's say this is the youthful pattern of these two genes. You've got a lot of the collagen that gives the youthful structure, and a very small amount of collagenase that breaks collagen down. You can see how that ratio of collagenase to collagen would lead to youthful looking skin, right? You don't have very much of the stuff that breaks the collagen down, and you have lots of collagen. Well, if gene expression changes as we age, where all of a sudden we're not making as much collagen as we once were, and we're making increased amounts of collagenase, what do you think the outcome of this pattern, this aging pattern would be? Yeah, you're going to get saggy skin. You don't have a lot of the stuff that gives the structure. You've got a lot of the stuff that breaks the structure stuff down, and it's going to lead to the development of fine lines and wrinkles. So, again, these are just two genes that I'm talking about, but we're interested at New Skin with our AgeLOC technology at looking at the entire human genome to see the changes in patterns of expression as we age. Well, it's not a science if you can't measure it. And so New Skin geneticists are interested in understanding how much do genes change in their expression as we age. Are they increasing in their expression? Are they decreasing in their expression? And so we kind of have this color spectrum. It goes from green to red. You really could use any colors you wanted to, but green to red is what geneticists tend to use a lot. And you can see that here at a youthful state, this gene 1, as we called it, is being expressed at a low level, and so we've associated it with the green color. And gene 2 was being expressed at a higher level, so we associate it with something in the red range. But that changes as through the aging process. And so these colors are just simply indicating whether the expression is going up or down. Does that make sense? You're going to see the red and the green a couple times throughout my presentation. So I want to make sure that this is kind of clicking in your head. So what's better, red or green?
Right. Depends.
It doesn't matter. You want whatever it was when you were young. So if this is what we got when we were older, we want to reset or kind of reestablish the same type of pattern that we had when we were young. Well, fortunately, in the last few recent years, there's been the development of all sorts of great things in the genetics field. This happens to be an Affymetrix gene chip. And you can literally fit the entire human genome on that small chip to give you an idea of the expression levels of all 20 to 25,000 genes in the human genome. Now, there's not 20 to 25,000 dots there. You wouldn't be able to see them all if I put all of them. But you now understand that every time you see green, it means low expression. Every time you see red, it means high expression. And you can use these chips over time to say, well, how did these genes express when I was young? And how are they expressing now that I'm older? You can identify the genes that are responsible for the aging process. This is very cool. And these scientists, LifeGen scientists, really brought us the understanding of looking at huge numbers or groups of genes that were functionally related. Please understand that there are other companies out there who are looking at gene expression. Those companies are looking at 1 or 2 genes. We're looking at the entire genome, and when we're looking at a particular problem, let's say fine lines and wrinkles, we're able to look at the whole human genome and identify dozens of different genes that are responsible for the development of fine lines and wrinkles as they change in their expression as we're aging. So it's an entirely different approach than other companies are making. Although other companies might talk about gene research, we're doing it in a very unique way. And these gentlemen actually happen to be the world's foremost knowledgeable on the genetic expression causes of aging. This is Richard Weindrich, Thomas Pola, and Jamie Barger. They're our LifeGen scientists. We've acquired LifeGen officially about a year and a half ago, and now they work for you guys. They are every day trying to find genes that we can reset so that you can have a new anti-aging product. So when Mike says, this is really, when you hear this term AgeLOC, we're talking about an anti-aging platform that will go on producing new and more innovative products for decades to come, really. And it's very, very exciting. Well, to help you understand this idea of these groups of genes that work together in functionally related ways, we refer to them as youth gene clusters. And when you hear the word cluster, you tend to think of genes that are all maybe grouped together on this one chromosome, and that's not what we mean at all. They might be found anywhere throughout the human genome, but they're related functionally. So it might be a youth gene cluster that's related to skin pigmentation. And so I've kind of put these stars throughout here, almost like a constellation, but they might all be related to one function. Well, even though I've explained it already, I think this one image captures it quite nicely. Let's say the aging response causes one gene on this chromosome to decrease in its expression as we age, a gene over here to increase with its expression with age, others to decrease maybe slightly, increase slightly. You get the idea that it's not just up or it's not just down. It's dysregulation of gene expression throughout the human genome. The whole idea of AgeLOC science is to oppose whatever changes aging brings about. So if age causes a gene to increase significantly, we want to oppose it that exact same amount. All we're doing is putting things back to the expression level that you had when you were younger. And what do you think you get when you get your genes to express the way that they did when you were younger? You get beautiful, that's right. You get a younger you is what you get. Because the way genes express is what really is the explanation of our physical characteristics. So AgeLOC technology has this ability to identify genes related to certain aspects of aging. Then we go out and we identify ingredients that can help to oppose those age-related changes in gene expression. This is what's known as a heat map. And I've already explained the colors of green and red. Green is low expression, red is high expression. One is not better than the other, but what you do want is you want the gene expression pattern that you had when you were younger. And if you were to count up the rows here, you'd find out that there's 52 rows. These happen to be 52 genes that are related to cellular energy. So this is the cellular energy youth gene cluster. And you can see the pattern, and the reason why we selected these is that they happen to be the genes that change with age. There are over 1,200 genes that are related to cellular energy, but only 52 of them change with the aging process. So it's not every gene in the body is changing. Some of them are changing, and that's our job, to identify which ones change with age. So these top 30 or so express at a low level when we're young, and that actually increases as we get older. Top 20 or so, high expression when we're young, and low expression when we're old. So this is the pattern that you want. And so we find individuals as we age with that pattern. Then we look for ingredients that help to reestablish this pattern. Does that make sense? The entire methodology of what we're doing with AgeLOC. Well, it is a very exciting technology. And recognizing that it is the foundation for creating a unique business opportunity for you, we've had to make sure that we're patenting this. So we've got over 18 patents now, filed or pending, 8 published articles in peer-reviewed scientific journals, presentations and scientific posters and awards around the world. It's very well respected. When we take this technology in front of other scientists, they are very impressed and very accepting of it. More importantly to you, though, however, is the fact that it has led to the development of about a dozen different products right now. And I don't have time to go into detail on all of these, but especially for those of you who are new to the business, maybe your first time exposure, I'd like to name them. What we've got over here is the galvanic body spa. It uses galvanic electrical currents to allow the benefits of our product to be delivered deeper into the skin tissue. And this is to be used along with the body shaping gel, the dramatic effects. Really, that system is targeting the body shape. It's targeting the cellulite problem. Then we've got our galvanic face spa with the pre and treatment gels. And then this system right here, these 4 products, is the transformation system. Then we have our AgeLOC R² Day, and last but not least, I've got our AgeLOC True Face Essence Ultra. If you were looking for one product to try, I think you might start with this True Face Essence Ultra. Very, very impressive product, and so thought we might talk a little bit about that and go a little deeper into the skin to understand the aging problem. Anyone want to guess which one is the old skin and which one is the young skin?
Honestly?
Yeah, so we've got young skin over here, old skin here. And as I look at this, it almost reminds me a little bit of a mattress, right? So if you were to take out the springs and the stuffing of a mattress, that's going to cause a sagging to occur. It's not going to hold the skin up. So this is our epidermis. We're going to lose some of the understructural components. Everything's going to fall, and that leads to the development of a wrinkle. That makes a lot of sense. So young skin is loaded with these structural components of collagen and elastin. The very name elastin tells you a little bit about what it does. It provides that snap to your skin. You can pull it out, and it returns to its form. Well, in this process of identifying genes or aspects of aging in skin, we came into 4 different youth gene clusters. The first we've kind of already talked about, skin structure related to these structural components of collagen and elastin. Another related to cell turnover, the rate at which old cells come off of your face, or your body for that matter, and new cells replace them. That really affects the radiance of your skin, the smoothness of your skin, and pore size. So cell turnover is really quite important. Then you've got pigmentation. As we grow older, we have kind of an uneven skin tone. And we wanted to identify genes that were related to pigmentation and understand how they become dysregulated in their expression. And lastly, skin hydration. We get older, our skin gets drier. And so we wanted to identify genes related to skin hydration. Well, old skin or young skin? Yeah, this is young skin. She takes her face and scrunches it up. What's going to happen when she releases? It's right back into place. And it's because she's got that nice expression levels of collagen and elastin. So that collagen and elastin, it provides that skin firmness and skin contour that we associate with youthfulness. Not so much in the aging process. So we start to lose that collagen and elastin, and it doesn't matter how long ago she scrunched her face up, it's just not going to snap back. We lose that ability to have that contour, holding our skin up against the bones. And instead, the skin begins to sag. And it really works just like a rubber band. You've got a lot of elastic tissue in young skin, and you lose that with age. So we understand this visual level. You can look at an individual and kind of determine how old they are, usually. You can understand the cellular level, but AgeLOC is always looking at this gene expression level, because we are trying to identify genes related to these problems. And we'll go to the same genes that you have. The genes themselves haven't changed, but it's the expression levels that they have changed. So we look at these heat maps to say, aha, now we understand the problem. All we have to do is get things to look like this again at the genetic expression level, and you'll get things to look like this again on the visual level. Make sense? Okay. Well, perhaps one of the best AgeLOC products to start with is this AgeLOC True Face Essence Ultra. And it features, you see it right here, but it's going to restore that youthful contour and firm skin. And most importantly, it does such an excellent job around the eyes, around the chin and neck. Those are some of the areas that we start to see the sagging skin first. And so people who use this, they start to see the reestablishment or the return of firm skin. Well, I'm going to move on to our dietary supplements that have used the same technology, and we've developed a product known as AgeLOC R². Who are my users? Okay, keep your hands up if you're using it. Only put your hand down if you don't love it. All right, good. Nobody put their hand down. You'll notice this product actually comes in 2 different bottles. So you've got AgeLOC R² Day and AgeLOC R² Night. And I want you to understand why it is that we didn't just throw these all in one bottle. What is it that allows the night product to work as a night product and the day product to work as a day product? Certainly you see that AgeLOC R² Day is designed to target youthful levels of energy. And that's a little easier, a little more intuitive to understand. So I want to talk a little bit about the night. We'll focus a bit on that. And when we talk about R² Night, we're really talking about cellular purification. And so people start to think, all right, detoxing. But it's a bit different from the traditional detoxing that you're probably used to hearing about. Because when we talk about that traditional detoxing, most people are thinking in terms of environmental exposure of environmental toxins. Well, that type of toxic exposure really doesn't change throughout our life. I want you to understand how this toxic burden is an age-related phenomenon. And so I've got this listed. I've got my red as external toxic load. That's the environmental toxins that do affect us. But it doesn't change over our lifespan. The toxins that we get from birth, basically the same amount of toxins that you were getting if you lived here 20, 30 years ago. That doesn't change. But our internal toxic load is being produced by our own bodies. As we go about breathing, exercising, our bodies make toxins on a daily basis. There's no way around it. So when we're young, we've got our internal toxic load, external toxic load, and add those together, we still have this fantastic cellular purification mechanism that helps to clear the toxins out of our cells. And because when we're young, this purification system is working so effectively, it exceeds the load that is coming to us from both internal and external sources. But due to changes in gene expression as we age, all of a sudden, we're not cleaning our cells out as effectively as we did when we were younger. So even though the external toxic load remains the same, our internal toxic load starts to build up. And that always reminds me of my kitchen sink. Anyone ever have a kitchen sink that looks like that? Life gets a little busy, things start backing up. Most of you are shaking your head no, so congratulations. If you've ever dealt with a kitchen sink that looks like this, what happens to the dirty plates and the dirty dishes once the sink is full of them? Where do you put them now?
Dishwasher.
Those are the planners. Well, okay, you can put them in the dishwasher. You still got to get all this skunk gone first. What happens at my house is all of a sudden the dirty dishes start going on the counters. And if you think about what you can do in a kitchen, you can really be quite productive in your kitchen. You can bring home your groceries and organize them. You can prepare a meal, make the meal, eat the meal. But it's a little more difficult to do when your kitchen starts to look like this. And I'm using this as an analogy of what happens in your cells. When your cells aren't clearing out the junk on a daily basis, they start to look like this kitchen sink and they lose productivity. When your kitchen sink looks like this, when your kitchen starts to get backed up, you can't arrange your groceries, you can't prepare a meal, you can't be productive in your kitchen any longer. And so, the whole idea of cellular purification is to allow your cells to remain productive. Whatever type of cell we're talking about. A brain cell does something different than a muscle cell does, but both of them require cellular purification to allow them to go about each of their respective functions. So this is basically where we started, was understanding these sources, the genetic expression sources, and the way genes express here determine the aging outcomes. So if we have genes that are expressing in a youthful manner, then we're going to have youthful outcomes. And I want you to understand how it is that cellular energy, being supported by AgeLOC R² day, and cellular purification, being supported by AgeLOC R² night, work together to support each other. So no surprises that cellular energy youth gene cluster supports a feeling of being recharged, and cellular purification supports a feeling of being renewed. But they support each other. So we'll call this my youthful cycle. As a cell produces youthful levels of energy, that energy drives everything the cell does. So it's a muscle cell, it's going to allow that muscle cell to contract. It's a brain cell, it's going to allow that brain cell to send an electrical impulse. But everything that happens in a cell is being supported by cellular energy. So cellular purification, it needs energy to be driven. You can't vacuum or clean your house up if you can't plug your vacuum in and have some energy. Does that make sense? So you can't drive the cellular purification mechanism if you don't have cellular energy to make it go. So once you have cellular energy, that energy is used for everything the cell does, among which is cellular purification. Once the cell has a clean environment, that makes it easier for the cell to be productive in making cellular energy. And you can see that's a positive upward spiral. As you provide energy, there's more energy for cleaning. As you clean the cell, it makes it easier for the cell to make energy. And so you enhance this recharged and renewed feeling. And so your outcomes of gene expression are very positive in this type of a scenario. Well, it changes as we grow older. So this is going to be the aging cycle. Now we're not producing adequate cellular energy. Now there's not enough energy to support the entire cellular purification mechanism. So cell doesn't get as clean. You start to accumulate. You get that kitchen sink being backed up. And so you diminish that feeling of being recharged and renewed, and you start to deal with those signs and symptoms of aging. Do you see how the youth gene cluster related to cellular energy and the youth gene cluster related to cellular purification really support each other? Yeah. So you could use just one product and you would get a benefit, but you really get an exponential benefit when you use both of them together because they're supporting each other. So AgeLOC really reestablishes that youthful supporting between the cellular energy youth gene cluster and the purification, cellular purification youth gene cluster to reestablish that recharge and renewed feeling. Well, I saw a lot of hands go up when I asked who's been using this, so there's only a few of you who will be interested in this slide. As far as usage of the product, you're taking 6 capsules of the AgeLOC R² day in the morning. They happen to be the white capsules. And then 2 capsules of the AgeLOC R² night in the evening. By the way, cells really do go through a purification process while we sleep. That is why we wake up feeling refreshed, is the body kind of uses that downtime to clean up the junk that's accumulated through the day. And that's why we want you to take one in the day and one at night. Well, hopefully I've kind of expanded your understanding of what AgeLOC science is, how we identify genes related to a certain problem, and then find ingredients that allow us to reset or reestablish that youthful gene expression. Wouldn't it be cool if we could use that same technology and bring it into the weight loss arena? It would be really cool. And so, I thought it might be fun to talk a little bit about our AgeLOC TR90. Do I have any AgeLOC TR90 users out there yet? there's a few special people, only like 100 on the entire planet, who have a kind of a preview of the product that we've sent out. So I just wondered if there was anyone out there. No one just yet. So here we are, once again, using gene expression to understand something that's gone wrong in the body. We take a look at how genes are expressing, genes related to metabolism, that type of thing. How genes are expressing in trim people versus individuals who aren't so trim. It allows us to identify the genetic expression problem and find ingredients that are going to allow those same genes, the youth gene clusters, those groups of genes, to express in the way they did when we were younger. We all know that it was easier to be trim when we were younger, would you agree? Yeah. There's a shift that happens as we grow older. We metabolize fat very effectively when we're young. And as we grow older, we don't metabolize fat so effectively anymore. When you see a child that is a little bit overweight, it's not, those children do not get overweight typically by eating fat. They get overweight by consuming a lot of sugar. So what we're really looking at is reestablishing our body's ability to metabolize fat. Now, there's a lot of weight loss programs out there, and I want you to understand this very clearly. What makes the TR90 system different from every other weight management system out there is because it is the only weight management system that is based on gene expression science. And as I've explained before, it changes the entire approach to how you're looking at formulating a product. Scientists love to understand all the little tiny details of what's going on in the body. And that's great. I mean, that's something that really interests me, is to understand every little tiny detail. But if you're going to try to understand one gene and its product, remember, a gene is a recipe, it makes a product. If you're going to understand a gene, its product, and everything that product does in the body, it takes decades to understand that type of thing. So if you're interested in just following the same type of science that we've been following for the last 3 or 4 decades, you can move forward at a very slow pace. But if you want to move forward very rapidly, instead of worrying about what all these genes are doing, all we're doing with AgeLOC science is getting them to do what they did at a more effective time. You know that's safe because guess what? It used to work that way in your body. We're just reestablishing the way those genes work at a more youthful time. So what makes TR90 different is we're identifying genes associated with the weight gain, obesity problem using our technology, then resetting those. There's no other weight management system on the planet that does that, nor can it, because we patented this. So very different, very unique, very it's like we're able to just open up the human genome and instantly understand what it is we want to reset it back to. So we're going to identify groups of genes. We knew we were going to be interested in some genes in the way they express in the brain. The brain is going to be responsible for appetite and mood, and that is certainly an important component of the weight gain problem. We were going to be interested in genes in muscle tissue. Muscle tissue is actually very, very important to the weight loss issue. And then lastly, in adipose or fat tissue, we wanted to understand how certain genes are expressing in that. And so in each one of these tissues, we have identified groups of genes that behave differently as we age than they did when we were younger. And we're just looking at a way to reset those back to their youthful levels. Now, there's 3 different aspects to this program. It's not just about taking a magic pill. So we've got the product, and I'll explain a bit. In fact, that's what I'm going to focus my comments on, is the product. But there's also a very an important eating plan that goes along with this. You can reset gene expression of these genes in brain, muscle, and fat tissue. But it really doesn't make any difference if you're not providing the right building blocks to it. So those genes might be reset back to youthful levels, but if you're not providing the right type of building blocks to your diet, it's not going to make a lot of difference. So you want to make sure that you team up the TR90 products with the TR90 eating plan. And the TR90 eating plan is very unique and specific to what we're trying to bring about. And then we want people to engage in exercise. This does not mean that you have to get a gym membership if you don't want to, but it is an important component of a long-term weight management program. Now, with our understanding of genes that are related to weight loss, we've really come into some paradigm shifts. How many of you have heard that there's this mathematical formula? Calories in minus calories out, you've got an equal balance. Yeah, 2 people have heard that before. A few more heads were not. It's really a bit different from that, quite honestly. It's not just calories in, calories out. Because I can take 2 individuals, we'll say they're identical twins with the exact same height, weight, body composition, and I can put one of them I'll put both of them on the same calories per day diet, but depending on the macronutrient breakdown of those calories, totally changes their long-term weight management success. So they might be taking the same number of calories in, burning the same number of calories, or engaging in the same type of exercise throughout the day, running the same distance, doing the same types of exercise. The types of calories you put in really determine the way your body is going to respond to them. So it's not as simple as this mathematical formula, the numbers of calories in and the numbers of calories out. And the reason that's important is it really changes the way we look at the weight loss eating plan. Because most people say, well, if it's calories in, calories out, all I have to do is reduce my number of calories, right? That's pretty simple. Well, so what do? They reduce their numbers of calories, and sure enough, their body starts eating away at their fat stores. But guess what else they start eating away at? Muscle. Exactly. So they start to lose the weight, and they stand on the bathroom scale and they say, oh yes, the number's going down. But as they lose muscle, muscle is the tissue that is really directly correlated to your metabolism. So as you lose muscle mass, you're losing metabolism. So the number on the bathroom scale goes down, but their metabolism goes down. So what are they going to do as soon as they reach their goal weight? They're going to say, okay, I don't need to worry about a reduced calorie diet any longer. And they're going to go back to eating a little bit more the way they did. And they're going to start regaining fat back, but they're not going to regain the muscle. So then they're going to say, oh, it's time to go back on my diet. So they start to lose body mass altogether, but they're losing fat and muscle. They get back down to their goal weight, say, okay, now I can go back. So this is what we call the yo-yo diet, right? So they lose the weight, then they gain it back. And it's really easy to gain it back. It's harder to lose the weight this time. They gain it back really easy, even harder. Do you see why that's happening? Because they're losing muscle mass with each cycle of the yo-yo diet. So they might be the same weight, but their body composition is changing drastically. All of a sudden you have an individual they look skinny, but they're very fat, quite honestly. They have high body composition of body fat. And those individuals have a hard time with long-term weight management success. So it's not as simple as calories in, calories out, or the number on the bathroom scale. What do I want you to pay attention to instead of just that number on the bathroom scale? What's more important than how much gravity is pulling you to the surface of this planet? Waist size, okay, all right. Maybe a size of different points in your body, hips, waist, arms. When you say it's really about body shape, would you care how much gravity is pulling you to the surface of the planet if you had the perfect body? Yeah. I mean, I don't care how deep my footprints are in the sand, as long as I look good, right? So it's more about body form and body shape that we're looking at with this program. Muscle does a lot of great things. It really gives us that youthful form. The problem is with aging, we start to lose muscle mass. So we peak at our muscle mass somewhere in our 20s or so, and it remains somewhat constant through the 20s and even the 30s. But once we hit our 40s, we start to lose about 1% muscle mass per year. And so we already talked about the yo-yo diet, how as we lose muscle mass, we lose metabolism. Well, that plays into the aging problem as well. So as we go from this nice youthful form where muscle gives us, a nice shape, we lose that, and that makes it easier for us to put weight on. And so TR90 is really looking at genes that are going to help to protect against muscle loss and perhaps even help with some muscle gain. So we lose the muscle, at age 40 or so, we start to lose 1% per year over the rest of our life. And as we lose that muscle, we lose the metabolism that goes with it, and that means that we're going to not burn as much, and that means we're going to start gaining fat in place of that muscle loss. And so it's an age-related problem. As we grow older, it's easier to put fat on because we have less muscle. Do you start to see why TR90 is going to focus so much on youthful muscle levels? Does that make sense? So it's more than a number on the scale. It's more about body shape. It's about losing fat, but not losing muscle. So we want to maintain that, and that's what's going to make a healthier, leaner you. Well, this really just kind of talks a little bit about the yo-yo diet that I mentioned before. So a traditional program, someone says, by the way, this is my muscle tissue and my fat tissue. I've got two individuals with the exact same ratios. And this individual is going to be on the traditional weight loss program where they lose fat, but they also lose some muscle. This individual is going to have on appropriate dietary intakes of protein, fat, carbohydrates, and they're taking these fantastic supplements that are going to protect against muscle loss. And so they lose only the fat, they don't lose the muscle tissue. And so over here, you've got reduced metabolism. Over here, you have increased metabolism. For every 2 kilos of muscle that you have over the course of a year, you can burn 2.5 kilos of fat. So just while you're sitting there doing absolutely nothing. So muscle mass is very key to a long-term weight management system. And so very key to what we've looked at as we formulated this TR90. Well, I told you that you have to make sure that you're teaming these supplements up with a diet, an eating plan that is going to support the things that your new reset gene expression is going to do. Because there's certain gene expression that you can bring about with a diet or your eating plan that you can't bring about necessarily with dietary supplements. And one of those things that we're really trying to emphasize is the need to redistribute your protein intake throughout the day. Most Australians consume 90% of their protein at their evening meal. So what we're asking you to do is to take that protein and divide it over the course of your 3 meals a day to get about 30 grams of protein in your breakfast, 30 grams with your lunch, 30 grams with your dinner. I bet most of your breakfasts probably did not have 30 grams of protein. It probably looked more like a protein toast with some Vegemite in it. So you got 1 gram of protein there, not a whole lot. So we want you to redistribute that throughout the day. And it really does a fantastic job of stimulating, triggering some gene expression that supports lean muscle mass throughout the entire day. So make sure that you're getting that very important protein that's going to help to complement what the supplements are doing. And you want to really stay away from some of the refined carbohydrates. This is not a low carbohydrate diet, but it is low refined carbohydrates. So you're not going to be consuming lots of sugars. You're going to be staying away from white rice. You're going to use brown rice instead. You're not going to eat white bread. You're going to eat whole grain bread instead. Because when you eat those refined carbohydrates, they really trigger this fat storing mechanisms in your body. Well, this is where we're at from a scientific front right now. We've done all sorts of analyses on gene expression in genes related to fat metabolism, fat utilization, protein synthesis, and muscle maintenance, as well as the ability of certain cells to detect the need for intake of nutrients and calories to really determine if you're hungry or if you're just eating unnecessarily. So we've looked at those types of genes, looked at the heat maps to understand what genes are changing with age and changing with the weight gain problem. And then we've just recently finished a 90-day preliminary study using the TR90 supplements. And these results of losing 15 to 25% body fat are very encouraging. And perhaps what's most impressive is that even though people have lost such a significant amount of weight, they're only losing fat because you don't want to lose the muscle. And then, as we mentioned, it's all about measurements. You know, what is my waist size? What, how are my arms the size that I want them to be? And so, on average, individuals lost about 3 inches or about 8 centimeters on their waist and 8 centimeters on their hips. So this is really more about reshaping the body than it is about a number on the scale going down. Because muscle weighs more than fat, right? So as you're restoring some of those youthful muscle levels, the number on the scale isn't necessarily going to change as much as sometimes with the traditional way of thinking excites us. But our body shape is going to change. Sound kind of exciting? Okay, because you guys look like maybe you're at a funeral right now, am I right? That's science, and some of you just aren't excited about science. Well, that's okay. Get excited about a product, though. You don't have to remember all the science that I talked about tonight, but do remember that it's like a genetic symphony, and all we're doing is we're retuning that genetic symphony to play the way that it did when we were younger. I wanted to just leave you with the fact that we haven't launched yet with the TR90 system, but it's going to go into a limited time offer at our global convention this October. And so you want to make sure that you get your pre-orders in, make sure you work with your upline to get those orders in. But you can see here we've got 4 different products. We've got the TR90 Fit and Control, the TR90 Trim Shake, and then another product that actually is just for the first 15 days. It really kind of helps to jumpstart the gene resetting process. It's called TR90 Jumpstart. So those are the products that are going to be in the TR90 system, along with, we're going to have Life Pack. Life Pack is a perfect complement to this. We're going to have the AgeLOC R2 day and night that I talked about. Any other products that are going to be in the Australian kit? We'll let you know about it when we find out a little bit more. I think that's the product kit right there. But what's really kind of interesting from a global view is that there's 1 billion starving people on this planet. That's a lot of starving people. But the problem on the overfed side is actually greater. These people have a choice, don't they? These people over here, they don't have much of a choice. If they had a choice, they wouldn't be starving, right? And so, what are we doing at New Skin to help on this side of the balance? Nourish the children. That's our initiative to help to nourish malnourished, undernourished populations throughout the world. And then on the other side of the balance, we're going to target that with our AgeLOC TR90. And so it really kind of brings back into balance what's happening in the world. And you have the ability to help on both sides of those balance, on both sides of that balance, to make this Vitamil available to children in undernourished. Really are interested in bringing about a more youthful form and shape to their body. So thank you so much for your attention tonight, and hope you feel like you learned a little bit about AgeLOC technology. And we're going to bring Mike back up.